Welcome back to Say No to Lashon Hara, Day 15. Today's lesson has been sponsored anonymously, and the entire project is done as a zechut for the refuah shlema for Chana Bat Simafega. The Chafetz Chaim now discusses another point which is important to understand about the process of Lashon Hara, and that is that there's a level of ona'at devarim, hurting someone with words or verbal abuse, which is even worse than the one we've talked about up until this point. One way is when a person relates something negative, and that's an element of ona'at devarim or lashon hara. However, when a person also causes the person to be humiliated or embarrassed, then there's another avon called lo tisa alav chet. Do not bear a sin because of him. The Torah obligates a person to stay away from embarrassing people. The Gemara tells us, "Hamalbin pnei havero berabim." If a person causes a person's face to go white, the blood drains from his face, he humiliates him in public, he does not have a portion in olam haba. Could you think about all the work you put in throughout your life to do mitzvot, to do ma'asim tovim, to study Torah, to go to tefillot, and then you lose it all because you humiliate someone publicly? That's the avon, the sin of lo tisa alav chet. Chafetz Chaim then does something which is just legend level. It's so amazing. He basically recounts a conversation of Lashon Hara, and he illustrates, as the conversation goes, all the different averot that people are being over as the conversation carries on. Reuven comes to Shimon and he says, "Listen, Levi, you don't know, he's speaking badly about you, he said this, he said that." In that moment, Reuven, for telling Shimon that Levi was speaking about him negatively, Reuven has just done the sin of lo telech rachil ba'amecha, should not go peddle gossip amongst people that we've spoken about. Obviously, we've already listed other averot that are linked to the isur of peddling gossip, but Reuven at this point has done these negative commandments. Shimon then listens to Reuven, and he believes what he said, that Levi actually said something negative about him. At that point, Shimon, when he accepts those words, he is over, he transgresses the commandment of lo tisa shem hashav, which means that a person is not allowed to accept a false report. He accepted the report from Reuven saying that Levi said these terrible things about him. What happens to Shimon? Shimon then goes and he sees Levi in the street. He starts screaming and yelling at him. When in that moment, he causes the person to feel abused verbally, and that is the sin that we've said, lo tonu ish amito. A person should not cause hurt to his fellow. So now Reuven has done the sin of peddling gossip. Shimon has done the sin of lo tisa shem hashav, accepting the false report. He now turns around and screams at his friend and at Levi, and now Shimon has now transgressed lo tonu ish amito. Levi can't believe what he's hearing. He's saying, "What are you talking about? I did not say those things. I never spoke like that about you." Shimon runs back to Reuven, and he says, "Reuven, you told me Levi said this. How could you tell me that? If he never said that." Reuven says, "He says he never said that. Let's go back to Levi, and I'll say it in front of him." Shimon, Levi, Reuven are now in one room, and Reuven says to Shimon in front of Levi, "Levi, you said this, you said that, you said the other thing." In that moment, Reuven, even though he already said this Lashon Hara, repeating the Lashon Hara gets him another isur of rechilut. Every time a person says Lashon Hara, even if that person already knows the information, the very act of repeating it gets another sin of lo telech rachil be'amecha. Not only that, because now he's humiliated and embarrassing Levi by saying this in his face in front of Shimon, what happens? He also transgresses the isur that we said of lo tisa alav chet, shall not humiliate a person. Levi now responds and he says, "Actually, it's true. I did say something. I didn't say it the way he said it. I didn't say it in that way. I didn't say it that way. In that tone, he totally turned it around." Shimon then says to Levi, I'm not going to believe you. You're a liar. The minute Shimon says those words again, he's now fulfilling the isur of accepting a false report. So you could have Reuven have sin, 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 sin. Shimon, sin, 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 sin. Right? Each part of the story winds up getting you more averot. And the Chafetz Chaim says, could you imagine if instead, when he went to Levi and Levi said, that's not what I meant. And then Reuven says, oh, okay, maybe I didn't understand what you meant. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Shimon, it's mechila. Then the sins that happened in the end of this story actually would have been avoided. So one of the things that Chafetz Chaim is pointing out to us is that there are times when we speak Lashon Hara, and then we find out that actually something was incorrect. If we do not have to be slaves to our ego, it would be the best thing if we could turn around and say, I made a mistake. I made an assumption. I did not understand. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. But most times, people will double down because they're embarrassed to admit that they're wrong. And as they carry on, not only do they have the original Averot, but each and every time they revisit and they restate what they said earlier, they have the chance of fulfilling another obligation, another Isur of Lo Telech Rachil Ba'amecha, of humiliating a person yet again and transgressing Lo Tisa Alav Chet. And having the person have to accept the story a fourth time, a fifth time, again, falling prey to the Isur of Lo Tisa Shem Ashav. My friends, Lashon Hara sometimes bites, but if you get a chance to get out of it, recognize, even though I already said it, each time I visit this again, I go down the same road. So at least let me save what I can on the end of this story.